Alex Vance froze mid-polish as billionaire tech CEO Julian Thorne waved a document in Portuguese before his executive team. His secret fluency burned in his throat. "Anyone who can translate this acquisition proposal gets my salary for a day, $31,500. Thorne announced, nudging aside Alex's cleaning cart with his bespoke Italian shoe. The conference room erupted in laughter as executives exchanged knowing glances. Alex kept his eyes down, focusing on the circular motion of his cloth against the mahogany table. "Maybe we should just use Google Translate," joked Liam Harris, VP of Operations, his silver watch glinting. "Probably more reliable than whatever discount service we'd get otherwise." Alex's phone vibrated in his pocket. A reminder of the eviction notice and the 72-hour countdown to the court hearing that could leave him and his son homeless. $31,000, the exact amount standing between dignity and desperation. His fingers closed around the mahogany translator's pen in his pocket. His grandfather's final gift, a skill hidden, a heritage denied, a chance dangling before him. Would revealing his true self to those who looked through him bring salvation or merely new humiliation? The question hung in the air like a prophecy as he slipped from the room, invisible once more. Alex hadn't always been invisible. 20 years ago, he was the bright-eyed 10-year-old who amazed his teachers by switching effortlessly between 3 languages. His African-American mother, Eleanor, had met his Brazilian father, Rafael, at an international student exchange in São Paulo. Their love story had flourished, despite cultural differences, bound by a shared passion for languages and education. Words build bridges between worlds. Rafael would tell Alex, his voice gentle as he taught him to read texts that danced across the page. By 12, he could translate conversations between his black grandparents and Brazilian relatives, earning proud smiles from both sides of his family. The mahogany translator's pen had been his 15th birthday gift, cool and weighty in his palm, its smooth surface interrupted only by carved characters spelling "knowledge illuminates." When he held it close, he could smell the faint cedar scent of his father's study, where they'd spent countless hours poring over texts in multiple languages. This pen belonged to a great scholar, his father had explained. Now it belongs to another. 3 months later, Rafael Vance was laid off from Thorne Enterprises during a strategic restructuring. After 20 years developing the company's South American market partnerships, he was discarded with a severance package that barely covered 2 months' rent. The health insurance disappeared overnight. When the persistent cough turned out to be stage 4 lung cancer, the medical bills accumulated faster than the rejection letters from his job applications. Alex remembered the night his father had returned from an interview at a competitor, his face ashen. "They can't hire me," he'd whispered to Eleanor. "Thorne has blackballed me throughout the industry. Something about proprietary knowledge." 6 months later, Rafael was gone, leaving behind $54,200 in medical debt, a heartbroken family, and a mahogany pen that Alex now carried everywhere as both talisman and burden. Eleanor took on 3 housekeeping jobs, her teaching degree from Howard University useless without American credentials or connections. Alex's dream of a linguistic scholarship evaporated when Eleanor's first stroke hit, forcing the 17-year-old to abandon his senior year and find immediate work. Now, at 27, Alex's days followed a punishing rhythm, cleaning offices at Thorne Enterprises from 4 p.m. to midnight, caring for his partially paralyzed mother until dawn, grabbing 3 hours of sleep, then translating academic papers online from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Under the pseudonym Linguistic Bridge, the anonymous translation work paid $25 per hour, far better than his cleaning jobs, which paid $16. But clients were inconsistent, and revealing his identity risked losing the healthcare coverage his mother desperately needed. 60 hours of work each week, every month, $2,200 for rent on their one-bedroom apartment, $540 for his mother's medications, $300 for the payment plan on his father's medical debt, $220 for groceries, and $160 for utilities. The arithmetic of survival left nothing for savings. For 10 years, Alex had moved through Thorne Enterprises like a ghost, emptying trash bins while executives discussed billion-dollar deals. He'd learned to make himself invisible while his ears caught everything. Strategic acquisitions, product launches, personnel changes. His fluency in Portuguese, Spanish, and English transformed meaningless background noise for others into valuable intelligence for him. He knew Julian Thorne had cut employee retirement contributions while purchasing a $16.5 million vacation home in Aspen. He knew Liam Harris had taken credit for the Brazilian expansion strategy that junior analyst Serafina Johnson had actually developed. He knew the company's public commitment to diversity masked systemic wage gaps. Maintenance staff were 87% people of color, while executive leadership was 94% white. Knowledge without power, intelligence without opportunity. Alex cleaned their coffee rings while understanding every word they said about South American markets, Hispanic consumers, and untapped multilingual demographics. The irony wasn't lost on him, but irony didn't pay bills or prevent evictions. And now, the 72-hour countdown had begun. His mother's disability appeal had been denied. Again. The final eviction notice would be processed Monday morning. Without $30,000 for back rent and legal fees, they would join the invisible ranks of the displaced, those who built, cleaned, and sustained the city without being welcomed by it. The document appeared on Thorne's desk at precisely 10:17 a.m. on Friday morning. Alex noticed because he was polishing the glass trophy case nearby, close enough to see the São Paulo postmark and the logo of A.B.E.L. Innovations, one of Brazil's largest software manufacturers. He also noticed how Thorne's perpetually composed face flickered with momentary panic. By noon, the executive floor was in chaos. Urgent meeting notifications pinged across monitors. The translation team was scrambled. Then the bad news was delivered. Serafina, the head translator, was in Lisbon visiting family, and her two associates were at an industry conference in Rio. Alex emptied wastebaskets methodically, moving through the commotion like a shadow. He should have left. His shift technically ended at noon on Fridays, but curiosity, or perhaps fate, kept him lingering, wiping down already clean surfaces as the executives assembled. Thorne slammed the document onto the table. A.B.E.L. is offering us exclusive manufacturing rights for our new software. This could double our market share in South America. That's fantastic news, ventured Harris, the confusion evident in his voice. It would be, Thorne snapped, if we could read the damn thing. They've sent it in Portuguese, and our translation team is unavailable. They want a response in 72 hours. Or they're taking the deal to their competitor. Alex's heart quickened. He recognized several characters visible on the cover page, technical terms his father had taught him, specifications for software manufacturing tolerances. Can't we use a service? Asked an intern. For something this confidential and technical? Thorne scoffed. Do you want our competitive advantage leaked to every tech firm in Silicon Valley? The executive shifted uncomfortably. Alex's cloth moved in silent circles on the credenza. I'll make it worth someone's while. Thorne continued, his voice taking on a performative edge as he noticed Alex's presence. Translate this 30-page proposal accurately in 48 hours, and I'll give you my daily salary. That's $31,500. The room fell silent. Then Harris laughed, others joining nervously. Maybe even the cleaning guy can try, Thorne added, gesturing toward Alex. Though I doubt they teach Portuguese in housekeeping school. More laughter, sharper this time. Alex kept his eyes down, but his fingers tightened around his cleaning cloth. "We'll divide it among the team," Harris suggested. "Use translation software for the first pass. Then clean it up." "Fine," Thorne conceded. "But remember, 72 hours until A.B.E.L. walks, and these documents don't leave this building. Security protocols in full effect." As the executives dispersed, grabbing copies of the document, Alex noticed two things. First, they were badly mistranslating even the title page, murmuring about partnership opportunities when the characters clearly indicated exclusive manufacturing contract. Second, the 72-hour deadline aligned precisely with his eviction timeline. Thorne's daily salary would cover his mother's immediate medical needs and the overdue rent. But revealing his skills could cost him his job if he failed, or worse, if he succeeded and threatened the executives' egos. And what if the document contained the same predatory policies that had destroyed his father's career? Would the same company that had ruined his family now profit from his hidden talent? And if he refused this chance, would he ever forgive himself? Alex made his decision at 1:43 a.m. Standing in the dim light of his apartment kitchenette, his son slept fitfully in the converted living room, his own medical monitors casting blue shadows across his face. The eviction notice lay beside Alex's translation notes, the number 72 circled in red, counting down the hours until Monday's court hearing. He wouldn't reveal himself directly, not yet, too risky. But he could test the waters, see how valuable his skills might prove. Saturday night found him back at Thorne Enterprises. His cleaning uniform was a perfect disguise for after-hours access. The executive floor stood empty, the security guard nodding familiarly as he wheeled his cart past his station. "Working weekend overtime," Alex mimicked. "My son needs medicine," he answered, exaggerating his accent, playing the role they expected. In the conference room, executives had left their translation attempts scattered across the whiteboard, a mess of mistranslated technical jargon and business terms. Alex winced at their mangled interpretations. Using his mahogany pen, he carefully corrected 3 critical sections, translating the complex software terminology with precision. He signed it simply, Night Owl. The corrections were specific enough to demonstrate expertise, but limited enough to seem like helpful hints rather than a complete solution. A test balloon to gauge reaction. By Sunday morning, his anonymous assistants had created a stir. Arriving early with his cleaning cart, Alex lingered near the conference room door, eavesdropping. "Who the hell is Night Owl?" Thorne demanded. "Security says nobody unauthorized entered the building," Harris responded. "Must be someone on our team." Alex watched through the gap in the door as Harris studied the whiteboard, his expression calculating. Then, to his disbelief, he erased Alex's signature and turned to Thorne. "Actually, I did this part," Harris claimed smoothly. "I've been studying Portuguese privately. I didn't want to make a big deal of it until I was more fluent. But given the emergency," Thorne clapped him on the shoulder. "Finally, some initiative around here. Take point on this, Harris. Coordinate the team's efforts." Alex's small victory turned to ash. Harris was promoted to project lead based on his work. The injustice burned. But he couldn't afford indignation, not with only 48 hours remaining before eviction. That night, with his son finally asleep, Alex spread the photographed documents across their kitchen table. Working through the technical portions, he discovered something that made his blood run cold. The contract included provisions for workforce optimization requirements, language that would allow Thorne to lay off 300 workers at the software development plant in exchange for reduced production costs. Among those workers would be his mother's cousin's family, who had finally found stability after immigrating last year. Alex sat back, the mahogany pen suddenly heavy in his hand. Complete the translation anonymously and enable more families to suffer, or reveal himself and risk everything. His phone buzzed with a text from his supervisor. New security cameras installed in executive wing. All cleaning staff must complete tasks before 7 p.m. until further notice. The window was closing. With his after-hours access restricted, Alex resorted to desperate measures. During his Monday shift, he hid in bathroom stalls during breaks, translating frantically on scraps of paper. He worked through lunch in the supply closet, racing against both Thorne's deadline and his own. Now, just 58 hours until the eviction hearing. By Monday evening, he had completed translations for roughly 40% of the document. He carefully placed more anonymous night owl notes in the conference room, watching as Harris continued claiming credit, growing more confident with each successful interpretation. The countdown ticked. 56 hours until eviction. 47 hours until A.B.E.L's deadline. Alex's eyes burned from lack of sleep. His hands cramped from writing. His son's condition deteriorated. The stress of potential homelessness causing his blood pressure to spike dangerously. Precisamos de milagre. His son whispered that night, clutching Alex's hand, "We need a miracle." What his son didn't know was that Alex had the miracle within his grasp. If only he dared reach for it. "We have a security breach." The words cut through Tuesday morning's executive meeting like a blade. Alex, arranging coffee service, kept his expression neutral as the security chief played video footage showing a shadowy figure in the conference room after hours. "The cameras caught someone, but the angle doesn't show a face," he explained. "Could be industrial espionage." "Investigate everyone," Thorne ordered, "especially maintenance staff with after-hours access." Alex felt Harris's gaze fixed on him. Had he connected him to the mysterious translations? By afternoon, security guards were interviewing all cleaning personnel. When Alex's turn came, he played his role perfectly. The simple cleaner who barely spoke English, confused by complicated questions. "No understand problem," he repeated, hating himself for the stereotype, but recognizing its protective power. "I clean only. No touch papers." The security chief seemed satisfied, but Harris lingered after the interview, his Harvard ring tapping against the desk. "Interesting," he said once they were alone. "You seem to understand English perfectly when I'm giving cleaning instructions." Alex shrugged, eyes downcast. "Instructions, simple. Questions, complicated." Harris leaned closer. "I think you understand more than you let on. Much more." That evening, Alex found his locker had been searched. His stomach dropped when he realized what was missing. The mahogany translator's pen. His father's gift. His talisman. Looking for this? Harris twirled the pen between his fingers when he cornered him in the empty break room. "Quite an unusual item for a cleaning guy. These characters here. They mean knowledge, don't they?" Alex reached for it, but Harris pulled it back. "Security is very concerned about unauthorized items that could be used for corporate espionage. I've taken the liberty of filing a report." By Wednesday morning, HR had issued Alex a formal warning for possession of unauthorized materials and suspicious behavior. Without his mahogany pen, his connection to his father, his confidence, Alex felt unmoored, his certainty faltering. The eviction countdown showed 34 hours remaining. His son had been taken to the emergency room with chest pains, depleting their meager savings for the ambulance copay. The apartment manager had posted the final eviction notice. 48 hours until they would change the locks. Desperate, Alex used his lunch break to access Harris's computer while he attended a meeting. What he discovered horrified him. Harris had deliberately mistranslated key sections of the A.B.E.L proposal. Sections that would not only harm workers, but potentially violate international trade laws. Thorne was about to sign an agreement that could trigger investigations and massive fines. When he returned to cleaning duties, Harris was waiting. "I know it's you," he said without preamble. "The mysterious translator." "I checked the personnel files. Your mother is Eleanor Vance, formerly Eleanor Davis from Washington, D.C. Your father worked here until we, how shall I put it, right-sized him. Alex's mask slipped. My father was an invaluable asset to this company. Harris's eyebrows rose at his perfect English. So he speaks. I wondered how long you'd keep up the act. Give me back my pen. After I speak with immigration about your son's visa status, Harris countered. Expired, isn't it, since your father's death? It would be a shame if authorities were notified. The threat hung between them. Speak up and face deportation threats, or remain silent while hundreds lose their livelihoods and Thorn Enterprises commits corporate suicide. 30 hours until eviction. 24 hours until the A.B.E.L. deadline. Alex had never felt more trapped or more determined. The emergency board meeting began at 9 a.m. Thursday, exactly 24 hours before the A.B.E.L. deadline. Alex moved silently around the conference room perimeter, pouring coffee and arranging pastries as Harris presented his completed translation to Thorn and the board members. As you can see, Harris explained, pointing to his PowerPoint, the terms are highly favorable. A.B.E.L. is offering exclusive manufacturing at rates 15% below market with minimal quality control oversight. Alex winced at his mistranslation. The document actually specified stringent quality control protocols with 15% higher tolerance standards than the industry average. Their only unusual request, Harris continued, is accelerated production scheduling using what translates roughly as modified staff allocations. Alex's hands trembled as he refilled the water pitcher. Harris was deliberately obscuring the mass layoffs the contract would require. There's a technical section about the Sistemas de Modelagem Fluida process that's still unclear. Harris admitted butchering the pronunciations so badly that Alex couldn't stop himself from flinching. Thorn noticed. Something wrong with the coffee guy? All eyes turned to him. The moment stretched, his future balanced on a knife's edge. Sistemas de Modelagem Fluida. Alex corrected softly, the proper tones flowing naturally. It means fluid modeling systems, not whatever he said. The room froze. Harris's face darkened. Excuse me? Alex straightened his shoulders. 16 years of language study overtaking 10 years of practiced invisibility. You've mistranslated several critical sections. Sistemas de Modelagem Fluida refers to the software's thermal management system, which requires specialized handling during manufacturing. It's not about staff reallocation, it's about technical specifications. How dare you interrupt? Harris began, but Thorn cut him off. You speak Portuguese? Thorn demanded, studying Alex as if seeing him for the first time. Portuguese, Spanish, and English, Alex answered, his heart pounding. I also read French and German, though my speaking fluency is limited. He's lying, Harris interjected. He's just a cleaner. My father was Raphael Vance, Alex continued, gaining confidence with each word. He built your South American market division before your strategic restructuring 10 years ago. He taught me business, Portuguese, and technical terminology since childhood. Recognition flickered in Thorn's eyes. Vance, I remember him. This is absurd, Harris protested. He's probably working for our competitors. Check my credentials, Alex challenged, pulling out his phone to display his profile on https www.google.com. Search to translationpro.com. I work under the username Linguistic Bridge. I have a 4.98 rating with over 400 academic and technical translations completed, specializing in engineering and business documents. Thorn took his phone, scrolling through the impressive client list and testimonials, his business instincts clearly wrestling with his prejudices. Harris, your translation mentions nothing about quality control protocols. Alex continued, addressing the board. It also obscures the fact that A.B.E.L. is requiring you to lay off 300 manufacturing workers as a condition of the deal, which would violate 3 separate labor agreements you've signed. The board members murmured, looking between Harris and Alex. "This is outrageous," Harris sputtered. "You can't possibly." Page 16, paragraph 4. Alex recited from memory. The characters clearly state that Thorne Enterprises must implement workforce reduction measures of no less than 300 positions within 60 days of contract execution. I can read the entire section verbatim if you'd like. Thorne studied him for a long moment, calculation replacing surprise. "You claim you can translate this entire document accurately?" "I've already translated about 60% of it," Alex admitted. "I was leaving anonymous notes to help, the ones Mr. Harris has been taking credit for." Harris's face flushed crimson as heads turned toward him. "You were the night owl?" Thorne asked. Alex nodded. A slow smile spread across Thorne's face. Not warm, but predatory. Recognizing an opportunity. "My offer stands," he said. "Translate the complete document by tomorrow's 9 a.m. Deadline, and my daily salary is yours. $31,500. "I want it in writing," Alex countered, surprising himself with his boldness. "And I want my pen back." "Your pen?" Thorne frowned. "My mahogany translator's pen. Mr. Harris confiscated it yesterday and filed it as suspicious material." All eyes turned to Harris, who reluctantly pulled the pen from his jacket pocket. "And I want a written contract guaranteeing my continued employment regardless of the translation outcome," Alex added, "with a confidentiality clause protecting my son's immigration status." The room fell silent at his audacity. Thorne studied him with new interest, perhaps even respect. Draw up the agreement, he finally instructed his assistant, and get Mr. Vance whatever resources he needs. As the mahogany pen was returned to his hand, Alex felt its familiar weight. Cool, solid, grounding. The countdown reset in his mind, 18 hours, to translate the remaining document, while his son faced eviction in 36 hours. For the first time in years, he was visible, for better or worse. Alex worked through the night in a small conference room they had assigned him, fueled by adrenaline and vending machine coffee. His fingers flew across the keyboard, the mahogany pen in his hand, guiding him through complex technical terminology and subtle cultural nuances that machine translation could never capture. By 3 a.m., his eyes burned. The characters began swimming on the page. He had completed nearly 85% of the translation, carefully noting discrepancies between what A.B.E.L. was actually offering and what Harris had claimed. The truth was somewhere in between. Not as rosy as Harris painted, but not as exploitative as he initially feared. The workforce reductions were suggested, not required, and A.B.E.L. had included provisions for retraining programs. His phone buzzed with a text from his neighbor, who was sitting with his son at the hospital. "Doctors want to keep him another day. Need $2,500 deposit for continued care." Alex massaged his temples. 30 hours until eviction. 6 hours until his translation deadline. He allowed himself a moment of hope. Thorne's money would solve their immediate crisis. He could negotiate with the landlord, pay the hospital, perhaps even find better housing closer to medical facilities. He rested his head on his arms for just a moment. The crash of coffee splashing across his desk jolted him awake. "Oh, clumsy me!" Harris stood over him, empty coffee cup in hand. Fake concern plastered across his face. "I was just bringing you a fresh cup." "You looked so exhausted." Alex jumped up, frantically dabbing at the spreading liquid with tissues. His laptop screen flickered, then went black. "My translation," he began, panic rising. "Don't worry," Harris said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I took the liberty of moving your digital files to my secure drive for safekeeping. Can't be too careful with such sensitive material. Give them back, Alex demanded, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I would, but unfortunately there seems to have been some sort of corruption. A technical glitch. He shrugged. These things happen. The digital backup was gone. 4 hours before the deadline, Alex would need to reconstruct critical sections from memory and the coffee-stained notes that remained legible. As Harris sauntered out, he called over his shoulder. Thorne expects perfection, you know. One mistranslated clause could cost the company millions. I'm sure he'll understand if you need to withdraw from the challenge. Alex's phone buzzed again, this time his landlord. Eviction processor coming tomorrow morning instead of Monday. Legal approved acceleration due to repeated late payments. He stared at the ruined papers, the dead laptop, feeling the walls closing in. 3 hours of work. Lost. Son in the hospital. Eviction imminent. Harris had outmaneuvered him at every turn. For one moment he considered giving up, walking away, finding another cleaning job somewhere Thorne and Harris couldn't touch him. Then his phone rang. The hospital. His son's condition had worsened. They needed payment authorization for additional treatment. Alex worked frantically, recreating translations from memory, his hand cramping around the mahogany pen. 2 hours passed. 3. As dawn broke, exhaustion overtook him. His head drooped, eyes closing, despite his best efforts. He awakened to Thorne standing over him, Harris smirking behind him. The wall clock showed 8:47 a.m. 13 minutes until the deadline. I expected this, Thorne announced, taking in his disheveled appearance. The scattered papers, the coffee stains. People should stay in their lanes. Housekeepers clean, executives execute. That's why I'm rich. And you're, well, exactly where you belong. He turned to his assistant. Draft a termination notice. Clearly, Mr. Vance violated company policy by accessing confidential documents without proper authorization. But our agreement, Alex protested, was contingent on delivery. Thorne cut him off. And you failed to deliver. I can't explain. Call Translation Pro, Thorne instructed Harris, ignoring him. See if they can start from scratch this afternoon. We'll have to ask A.B.E.L. for an extension. Harris's triumphant expression said everything. Alex sat frozen, watching his one chance at saving his family collapse under corporate cruelty. His father's voice echoed in his memory. Words build bridges between worlds. But what happened when those bridges were deliberately burned? Had he risked everything only to end up in a worse position than before? As Thorne turned to leave, Alex's gaze fell on his bag, where the edge of a notebook peeked out. His father's research journal. He'd brought it for reference. Forgotten until this moment. Wait, he called, a new clarity cutting through his exhaustion. Thorne paused at the door, irritation evident. We're done here. My father worked on this exact technology, Alex said, pulling out the journal. The Project Atlas software series. He was part of the original development team before A.B.E.L. Innovations acquired the patent. He flipped through the journal, finding his father's detailed notes on the manufacturing process, diagrams, specifications, and testing parameters. Information not even included in the A.B.E.L. documents because they assumed Thorne Enterprises already understood the foundational technology. These notes contain details about the fluid modeling system that aren't explained in the proposal because they're proprietary knowledge. Alex stood straighter, confidence returning. I can complete this translation with technical precision no translation agency could match. You have 10 minutes, Thorne said after a calculating pause. Alex worked with renewed focus, his father's journal open beside him. The mahogany pen moved across paper with certainty, filling gaps, clarifying ambiguities, and noting technical specifications that the A.B.E.L. document only referenced obliquely. At precisely 8:58 a.m., he walked into the boardroom where executives had gathered for the A.B.E.L. video conference. He placed the completed translation before Thorne, who scanned it skeptically. "The video call is starting," his assistant announced. Thorne hesitated, glancing between the translation, Harris, and Alex. "Mr. Vance, perhaps you should." "I'll wait outside," Alex said, turning to leave. "Actually," came a voice from the video screen, "we would prefer if Mr. Vance stayed." Everyone turned to the large display where Carlos Ribeiro, CEO of A.B.E.L. Innovations, appeared with his executive team. Beside him sat a familiar face, Mr. Marcos, his father's former colleague. "Mr. Vance," Marcos said in Portuguese, "it is an honor to meet Raphael's son. He spoke of your linguistic gifts often." Alex responded in flawless Portuguese, his surprise giving way to understanding. "The honor is mine, Mr. Marcos. I didn't realize you were aware of my employment here." "We weren't," Carlos interjected, "until our intelligence team noted someone was accurately translating our deliberately complex proposal. Few people could navigate those technical terms correctly." Thorne looked between them, understanding nothing of the rapid Portuguese exchange. Alex switched to English. "Mr. Ribeiro says they included technical complexities as a test. They wanted to see if Thorne Enterprises still retain the expertise my father helped build." "That depends," Alex answered, switching back to Portuguese to address Carlos directly. "The proposal contains ambiguities regarding workforce requirements that could be interpreted as requiring layoffs." "Was this intentional?" A subtle smile crossed Carlos's face. "Very perceptive. We have concerns about Thorne's labor practices since Mr. Vance's departure. The workforce language was deliberately ambiguous to see how they would interpret it." Alex turned to Thorne. "A.B.E.L. Innovations is concerned about your company's approach to workforce management. They included that section as a character test." "This is ridiculous," Harris sputtered. "He's making this up too." "Perhaps," Alex interrupted. "Mr. Harris would like to explain why he deliberately mistranslated key sections and sabotaged my work." She pulled out her phone, showing security footage he'd recovered during his night of research. Harris was clearly visible, pouring coffee on his computer and deleting files from his directory. The room fell silent. Thorne's expression hardened as he watched the indisputable evidence. "Mr. Harris," he said quietly, "you're fired. Security will escort you out." As Harris was removed, protesting loudly, Carlos spoke again in Portuguese. "We will proceed with the contract on one condition: that Mr. Vance oversees the implementation as our cultural liaison." The mahogany pen moved confidently across Alex's notes as he translated the conversation in real time, its smooth surface catching the light, leaving crisp blue characters that smelled faintly of cedar and possibility no longer a memento of loss, but an instrument of his authority. "They insist on working directly with me as a condition of the deal," Alex explained, the power dynamic in the room shifting palpably. Thorne studied him, recognizing the leverage he now held. With the A.B.E.L. deadline minutes away and millions at stake, he had no choice. "Fine," he conceded. "Mr. Vance will oversee the cultural aspects of the implementation." The video call concluded with Carlos expressing his pleasure at finding Raphael Vance's legacy alive at Thorne Enterprises. As the executives dispersed, Thorne approached Alex. "It seems I underestimated you," he replied simply. "Our agreement stands." He wrote a check for $31,500, his daily salary, though it appears you've earned considerably more than that. As cameras recorded the official contract signing for company records, Carlos made one final request via email: a $60,000 signing bonus specifically designated for cultural consultancy services provided by Alex Vance. With $91,500 in hand, enough to save his son's medical care, stop the eviction, and provide breathing room for the first time in years. Alex finally allowed himself to exhale. The mahogany pen rested in his hand, no longer a burden of the past, but a key to his future. 6 months later, Alex sat in his new office, Director of International Relations at Thorne Enterprises. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city where he'd once felt invisible. His desk, polished walnut, not the pressed composite of lower-tier employees, held a framed photo of his son, now receiving specialized care in a facility close to their new 2-bedroom apartment. The mahogany translator's pen rested in a small crystal stand, its polished surface catching the morning light. When he held it now, the cedar scent mingled with the fresh orchids he kept beside his father's photograph. 2 sensory connections, one to his past, one to his present. His first official act as director had been establishing a scholarship fund for employees' children, named for his father, and implementing a comprehensive review of the company's layoff policies. His second had been rehiring workers from his community, with proper benefits and language-appropriate training materials. The contract he'd negotiated with A.B.E.L. had increased Thorne's South American market share by 32% in 2 quarters. The board members who had once looked through him now addressed him as Mr. Vance, with the same deference once reserved for Thorne himself. Even Julian Thorne had developed a grudging respect for him, not from any moral awakening, but from the simple arithmetic of profit. His cultural insights and linguistic precision had opened doors previously closed to the company, as Thorne himself had put it in the last shareholders' meeting. Mr. Vance's unique perspective has proven unexpectedly valuable. Alex smiled at the corporate-speak translation of, "I was wrong about him." His assistant knocked gently. "Your son's physical therapist called. The improvements are continuing ahead of schedule." "Obrigado," Alex answered, allowing himself the small pleasure of using Portuguese openly in these halls where he'd once hidden his multilingual identity. His phone chimed with a calendar reminder. The monthly board meeting was in 15 minutes. 6 months ago, he had been invisible in that room, wiping fingerprints from water glasses while executives made decisions that affected thousands of lives. Today, he would present his international expansion strategy, a plan projected to create 450 new jobs and increase company valuation by 18%. As he gathered his materials, his gaze fell on a newspaper clipping framed beside his father's photo. The business section headline read, "Thorne Enterprises stock soars on South American partnership. New director credits immigrant father's legacy." The article highlighted his unconventional rise from maintenance staff to executive leadership, with analysts praising the company's unexpected talent discovery as a model for corporate diversity. What the article didn't mention was the 28 other maintenance and support staff members who had been promoted after Alex implemented his Hidden Talents Initiative, a company-wide program that encouraged employees at all levels to showcase their skills and education. The former security guard with an engineering degree from Ghana, the cafeteria worker who spoke 5 languages, the IT help desk technician with a gift for product design. Harris, meanwhile, had become a cautionary tale in corporate circles. After his attempted sabotage went public, no major tech firm would touch him now. The last Alex had heard, he was teaching business communication at a community college, ironically educating the very demographic he had once dismissed. Thorne himself remained unchanged at his core, driven by profit rather than principle, but had learned to recognize talent regardless of its packaging. He still referred to Alex's rise as lightning in a bottle, rather than acknowledging the systemic barriers that had kept him hidden. But actions spoke louder than words, and his willingness to reform hiring and promotion practices had real-world impact beyond performative statements. As Alex walked toward the boardroom, employees greeted him by name, some in English, others in Spanish or Portuguese. Each interaction was a small bridge between worlds. He carried his father's mahogany pen, not as a secret talisman, but as a visible symbol of his heritage and expertise. The board members rose when he entered, a sign of respect that still surprised him. As he prepared to present his vision for the company's future, Alex thought of his son, now taking college courses online to refresh his engineering credentials, and of the cleaning staff, who now looked him in the eye instead of averting their gaze. Visibility had its price, the scrutiny, the pressure, the knowledge that he represented more than just himself in these rooms. But invisibility had cost far more. The talent wasted, the voices unheard, the bridges unbuilt.